In the gilded cage of Don Moretti's world, power was currency and loyalty, a fragile glass. He was the undisputed king of the city's underworld, a man whose name was whispered in fear and reverence. His wife, Isabella, was his most prized possession, a diamond he loved to display, but rarely bothered to admire up close. To the outside world, she was the epitome of grace and beauty, the perfect complement to his formidable presence. But behind the opulent walls of their mansion, she was just another subject in his kingdom, often overlooked and sometimes cruelly reminded of her place. The setting was a lavish banquet, a celebration of Moretti's latest victory over a rival family. The room glittered with champagne flutes and sparkling jewels. Laughter and cigar smoke filled the air. Moretti stood at the center of it all, a titan in a bespoke suit, basking in the admiration of his men. Isabella was by his side, a silent, elegant shadow. He was telling a story, his voice booming with authority, and his men hung on every word. To punctuate his tale of dominance, he casually draped an arm around Isabella. "And my lovely wife here," he declared, his tone dripping with condescension. "She knows her place, don't you, darling? Seen and not heard. That's the secret to a happy life." A ripple of sycophantic laughter went through the room. Isabella's cheeks flushed with a heat that had nothing to do with the crowded hall. For years she had endured these casual dismissals, these public humiliations disguised as jokes. She had swallowed her pride, telling herself it was the price of the life she lived. But tonight something snapped. The laughter of the men, the smug look on her husband's face, it was a final, unbearable straw. The smile on her face didn't waver, but her eyes, once soft and demure, hardened into chips of ice. Later that night, the house was quiet. The party was over, the sycophants gone. Moretti was in his study, pouring himself a drink, still high on the evening's adulation. Isabella entered the room, closing the heavy oak doors behind her. She was no longer the silent ornament from the party. She had shed her glittering gown for a simple dress, but her presence filled the room more than any finery ever could. Moretti barely looked up. "Did you need something, Isabella? I'm busy." "You humiliated me tonight," she said. Her voice was quiet, but it cut through the silence of the room like a shard of glass. Moretti finally turned, a flicker of annoyance in his eyes. "Don't be so dramatic, it was a joke." "My men understand." "No, you don't understand," she replied, her voice gaining strength. "You parade me around like a trophy, but you treat me like a footnote in your story. You demand loyalty, but you offer only contempt. You think your power comes from the fear you inspire in your enemies and the blind obedience of your men. You're wrong." Moretti scoffed, swirling the amber liquid in his glass. "And where, my dear wife, do you think my power comes from?" He was amused, intrigued by this sudden show of defiance. He expected tears, a plea for an apology. He was not prepared for what came next. Isabella stepped closer, her gaze unwavering. "Your power," she said, her voice dropping to a near whisper, "comes from the silence of those who know your secrets. It's the ones who see you not as a king, but as the scared little boy you once were. The ones who know what you did to get here." The glass in Moretti's hand stilled. The playful smirk vanished from his face, replaced by a cold, dangerous stillness.
Oh.
No one had ever dared to speak to him this way. He took a menacing step toward her. "You are treading on very thin ice, Isabella." She didn't flinch. "Am I? You think these walls protect you? You think your men are loyal to you?" "They are loyal to the idea of you. It's the myth you've built. But myths can crumble," she continued, her words precise and measured, each one a carefully aimed dart. "Your consigliere, Marco, the man you call your brother. I know you had his father disappear to take his place. Your enforcer, Rocco, the one who worships you? His sister came to me in tears, telling me what you did to her years ago, a secret she's too terrified to ever speak aloud. And your rivals? They're not afraid of you? They're waiting for the moment you show weakness? The moment the foundation cracks?" Every word was a blow. Moretti stared at her, his face pale. It was as if she had peeled back his skin and exposed every hidden scar, every dark secret he had buried deep within his soul. These were not accusations, they were facts. Truths, he thought, were locked away forever. How did she know? How had this woman, the one he dismissed as a pretty, vapid accessory, seen so much? He had underestimated her, and that realization was more terrifying than any rival's threat. "All these years," Isabella said, her voice now filled with a quiet sorrow, "I have been your keeper, not just of your home, but of your secrets. I polished your image, soothed the people you hurt, and maintained the silence that you mistake for loyalty. The people in this house, they don't talk to you, Don Moretti. They talk to me, because I listen, show them the kindness you lack. My silence has been your greatest asset. My quiet support has been the glue holding your fragile empire together." A profound silence descended upon the room. The only sound was the ticking of the grandfather clock in the corner, each tick marking a second of Moretti's crumbling authority. He looked at his wife, truly looked at her, for the first time in years. He saw not a decorative object, but a queen in her own right. A woman who wielded a different kind of power, the power of knowledge, of empathy, of quiet influence. The fear he inspired was brittle, but the loyalty she commanded was forged in genuine connection. Her final words struck him with the force of a physical blow. "You humiliated me tonight, and in doing so, you didn't just insult your wife. You risked waking the one person who knows how to burn your kingdom to the ground without lighting a single match. Remember that the next time you feel the need to remind me of my place." With that, she turned and walked out of the study, her back straight, her steps unhurried. She left behind a man who had conquered a city but had just been conquered by a few simple, devastating truths. Don Moretti, the feared Mafia boss, stood alone in his study, the silence of the room now deafening. He was a king who had just realized his crown was, and always had been, held in place by the very hands he had so carelessly pushed away. The balance of power had shifted, not with a bang, but with a whisper. And he knew with chilling certainty that he would never look at his wife the same way again. Thanks for watching.